Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're back with both MR2s. I got the white one and the red one. I know I'm always bringing back different MR2s. You can never tell which one you're gonna get, but today we're on the red one. If you've been following, you know we had the Wilhelm geometry kit to install, so that's what we're gonna do today. Should go pretty quickly, don't wanna jinx myself, but we're gonna get started. We're gonna start on the back and then we're gonna work our way to the front. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay guys, so like everything on YouTube, I'm not the first to do it. There are other good videos on YouTube as well. I actually watched some of it to be able to film this. I want to give credit to the guys who have done some of the work that helps me to film it, to show you guys. Now, obviously, different people follow different platforms, so maybe you want to see it on this channel, and that is the reason why we're doing it here as well. So I think Salad Bar is the name of the guy, SW20. He did a very good video on how to install this thing, so credits to him. And I'm kind of following what he did and throwing my own spin on it. So here's the kit. This is what we got. This is the Wilhelm geometry kit. Now I will say, obviously I didn't, when you're purchasing this, you got to make sure you advise the guys if you have a 91 or a 93 plus chassis, because the arms in the back are a little bit different. If you know your MR2, you know the arms on the back are longer on the 93 up chassis and they're shorter on the 91, 92s. But anyways, if you look here, everything on this side is for the rear of the vehicle. I actually installed one side already. So this is just all the parts for one side. The other side is already on the vehicle, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it. And then I haven't touched the front yet. So everything over here on this side is the hardware that comes with the front. So you got your RCAs. This is what brings the ball joint lower down. They're much thicker on the front. These are the ones on the back. I think it's 1.25 inches here, 1.75 inches for the fronts. So you'll have the RCAs here, then you have a whole bunch of hardware that goes on. I just want to show you here on the bench because we're going to actually show you when we get to the vehicle itself. But just so you know, these are a bunch of parts that come and you kind of have to put the puzzle together. So that is why this video hopefully will be helpful for some of you guys. On the rear, another set of RCAs, bunch of hardware. This is the hardest part. This bushing has to be basically inserted in, so you have to take out the factory bushing. It's actually the one right here. This one, which you'll see some more as we get to the car, but we're gonna have to press this out. We're gonna put this one in. So that is the most tedious part of this from what I'm seeing here. But as we always say on this channel, there's only one way to find out, and we gotta get to the vehicle, we gotta start working. So now we're gonna head to the back of the vehicle. We're gonna finish up the passenger side because I'm done with the rear driver side. Show you guys, and then we're gonna move to the front and get that knocked out. All right, so we're on the rear of the vehicle. We're on the passenger side. Now we're gonna start with the ball joint. So we're gonna put the RCAs in. So there are two 17mm bolts, one on the front, on the back, one on the front. We're gonna pull those off, and we're just gonna begin by sliding in the RCA. So let me get these out, and then we're gonna use this pry bar here to kind of push this down and slip them in, and then we're gonna tighten them up. Then we're gonna move on to this arm, which this bushing is what I was telling you we have to press out. This is probably the most tedious part of this job in the rear. But let's get here first, and then we'll come back over to this side. Alright guys, so what I did was I basically pulled those two bolts on the ball joint, loosened these for this arm right here. I'm not going to pull these off yet because I want to push down on this crossbar, and you're going to see because I got to get our RCA slipped in. So I'm going to just push it down. Now, probably could try to muscle it, but this is a fairly thick, so I'm going to show you guys right here. See, you can pull it down. But obviously, I need to get it as wide as this to be able to slip it in. So I'm going to use a little pry bar here just to kind of help me out. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's see how well this works. It worked pretty good on the other side. There you go. So just do something like that. I'm still gonna have to finagle a little bit with this, but we'll figure it out. Alright, so here's the RCA. So this little round part goes on the top and the indent goes on the bottom. That's how it fits well into this place. So I have the bar here. As you guys can see, I can pull down on it. So now all I'm gonna do is just slip this in. All right, there you go. So just a little bit of finagling and slips right in, and then we can get our two. These are the two bolts. I'm assuming all the kit comes with the silver finish. So we're gonna put these bolts in, and that's it. I'm gonna torque these down to 80 foot-pounds, and we're done right here. Now I like to thread these in by hand. That way I'm not forcing anything. It should go up nice and easy, and if it doesn't, then it just means I'm off by a little bit. So I just keep working it in until I get it in nice and solid. All right, so we got them in by hand. Everything is going smooth, so now you can put a wrench on it. And again, I just like to be careful when I'm doing stuff. I don't want to cross thread anything. So like I always say, guys, take your time, just do it right. There's no rush. And what you'll find is a lot of times when you rush these things, you actually, you make mistakes, and it costs you, the time you're trying to save, it just ends up costing you more. So that's my word of advice to everybody here. All right, so we're gonna tighten this up. I'm gonna throw the torque wrench on it. We're gonna get it up to 80 foot-pounds. All right, so this is done. Now we're gonna move on to the cross arm. So let's get this nut off, slide it out, this comes down. And we're just gonna unscrew this guy. Now look at these guys, look at these bushings. Very nice. I mean, this is probably the nicest set of bushings I've ever seen on an MR2. I gotta think these were replaced. I mean, they're so nice. Look at this one. Solid. Normally see these things are cracked, but this guy gotta come out. So we're gonna press this out, and I'm gonna show you the tool that I bought to get it out. And again, you know, credit goes to Solid Bar, the YouTube channel, because he actually, you know, I got the idea for him to buy this kit, and it worked really well on the other side. So we're gonna show you guys how it works on this side. All right, so I thought I'd just point this out. It has nothing to really do with the step-by-step process, but these are the bolts that I took out on the driver's side. And from my memory, these are what the factory bolts look like for the ball joint. These are the ones that I took out on the driver's side. So as you can see, they're quite different. So I don't know why people do this, man. Like, why not just use the factory bolts all the time? I mean, it looks like an aftermarket ball joint. I don't think it would make a difference with the bolts, but nevertheless, found that. So, you know, good thing we have new bolts to go in, because I would hate to use different bolts on both sides. All right, so this might look like overkill, but I bought this kit. It's a ball joint kit. Vivor is the name of it, and it says tough tools half price. So, you know, hey, so far it worked. This is actually, there you go, that's a better view. And it has a lot more pieces than definitely has a lot more pieces than we're gonna need for this job. But I figured since I'm gonna purchase a kit, I'll just get one where anything I have probably beyond the scope of what we're doing right here would work. So the way this kit works, it has the C-clamp, it has this threaded shaft that goes in here, and you really just kind of find the right adapter to work with whatever you're trying to push out. For this kit, I have this size. I'll show you what it looks like on the vehicle, but we're gonna use this. We're gonna use this arm and this piece. So these three pieces are what we're gonna use, and we're gonna press out the factory bushing, and we're gonna put this one back in. So, you know, again, you might need to invest in this if you don't have it. I certainly had to do it if you want to do this job at home. All right, so now we're gonna go start pushing this thing out. Let's see, let's go. All right, so this tool, it's pretty heavy. So I can tell you that first off. So if you have somebody that can help you, it will really go a far way, because you got to really balance this thing up here. Can be done by one person. I'm gonna do it by myself here, but if you have somebody to help you just kind of hold it in place while you use the gun on this end to thread it in, it would be a big help. Now, this is the adapter. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna push this bushing out. We're gonna push it to the back of the car. So what, as you can see, it fits over the spindle right here, and it's gonna give you enough room where it's pushing against the outer section, and then the bushing will just be received inside of this capsule right here. So that's how we're gonna set it up here. This side, we're gonna go in from here, and then we're gonna line up this piece. And I'm showing you guys from this side because otherwise I'd have to bring the camera around here. But we're basically gonna line this up right on the center of this thing and just push it this way so it comes all the way back. All right, so here I have the clamp positioned. I kind of tightened it by hand. So I just kind of went up and got it snug. Be careful this thing doesn't fall on you, because until you use the impact on it, it's really not that snug. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go with the impact on this side. We're gonna turn this thing in, and it should hopefully just push this out without much problems. So here goes. All right, guys, as luck would have it, the other side came out easy, but this bushing tore apart. So now I'm improvising. So I'm using the same method to push it out. I just can't use, I'm putting a 17mm bolt. I don't know if you, socket, if you can see it on the inside of this thing to push it out. Once I get it out, I'll be able to explain it a little bit better. It's halfway out, so I'm making some progress, but this should have been like a 2-minute job, and it's been 20 minutes already. So, you know, the joys of working in a car, there's always something that goes wrong. But we're making some headway. I'm gonna run the impact again. I think I'm gonna be able to get this all the way out in a second here. Almost there. Close. We did it. Here's the bushing. Now I lost the other piece. Basically, this was in here, and this was in here. So when I started to push on this thing, it popped this out, and this piece got stuck in here. So I'm thinking the way this works is, it looks like these are new bushings that were installed, because again, they're just too new for a 91 car. So I think when they put this bushing in, they should have put it in like this. So when you push it out, it goes that way, because you can't really get the receiving tube on this side. So this is really the right way to install it. So they installed it the wrong way, and because of that, they gave me a whole bunch of headache here. But we got it out. That's the good news. So now we're gonna move forward with pressing in the Wilhelm bushing here, and then we should be smooth sailing from this point on. But this took me a good 30 minutes here, so a little bit of hiccup, but I'm glad you guys saw it on video. There are my gloves. I was working. All right, so this is the bushing that we're gonna put in here to replace the factory bushing. Now, should be a very snug fit. I did the other side, and again, it went well. This side, I'm gonna do the same way as I did it and hope it works as smoothly as it did. Now, I did put some grease on this side because I wanted to slip in, and it was still pretty snug. I'm not necessarily, it doesn't really say in the directions that you should put grease on it, but I'm gonna put some grease, so I'm just telling you for the purpose of what the instruction is versus what I'm doing differently. It's putting a very light film of grease, so when it goes in, it just doesn't mar the surface, and it helps it to slide in a little bit. I don't think this grease is gonna make this thing spin when it's inserted, but you know, that's just the decision I'm deciding to do. So when you do yours, you know, you can either take my advice or do it how you feel like. So we're gonna go here. Now we pushed it out this way, so we're gonna put it back the opposite way, and I'm gonna kind of thread it in by hand first and then use the gun and just kind of work it in. So here goes. The trick is to try to get this in as evenly as you can. So I'm just gonna take my time. I ran it in by hand just to get it snug, and now I'm just gonna take my time and run it in. As you can see, it's going in. I'm watching it, making sure it's even on both sides. Alright, so you run it in so it's nice and flush, and that's pretty much it. So now we're going to put on the cross arms, and this is moving along very nicely at this point. Got the bushing in. That was what I think is the hardest part to the whole thing. Now we have some hardware here. We have a shorter bolt, a longer bolt, 2 nylon lock nuts, and then we have these 2 spacers, and we have the arm. Now the arm does get shipped with this piece separate. Then you have the joints here at the end that you have to thread in. Now if you're trying to figure out what goes where, you can't really mix them up, because you see these little notches right here in the nut. It aligns with the notches here on the rod. So that's one easy way to do it. Honestly, I tried to put this on this side and it didn't work, so I don't think it would thread in either way. But what you're really using as a guide are these notches on the nuts right here to line up so you know which side goes in where. You'll notice the diameter of this one is smaller than the diameter of this side, so that's also something to pay attention to. Now we are going to use the factory bolt from the subframe, so that you're going to keep for the kit. You're going to use the factory bolts, and then we're going to use the 2 bolts that I showed you here, these short and the longer ones. These are going to go to put this little drop down bracket that basically slips on right over here. Now the directions does say that you might have to ream this thing out because it's a tight fit, but I got the other side to go on fairly easy, so we're gonna hope for the best here so we don't have to do any extra work. So you're just gonna line it up, and you're gonna get the shorter bolt in. You're gonna put 1 washer on the end here, and you're gonna try to slip this thing in. You're gonna have to, it takes a little bit of finesse, but I think we'll be fine. You just tap it around a little bit. And like I said, it just requires a little bit of finesse. You gotta play with it. So I got this side in. Let's see if I can tap it through. Just like that. And then we get our second washer, put it on the back with our lock nut here. All right. Now, if you look on the back, I'm gonna move you guys to the back over here. It does kind of sit, it's supposed to sit flush with this line. So that's how you know where the position is. See that? See that little line right there? Look on the front side of it, this line right here, as you can see, kind of aligns with the spindle. So that's how you really know, and it prevents it from moving around. So it kind of locks it into place. So you really can't mess this up. So we'll just put this bolt on for now, and then we're gonna go ahead and drop the arm in. So here's the arm. The length I used for this from center to center was about 13 inches and 3/4. It is not the same length as the OEM arm, because the OEM arm goes from here to the subframe, while this one, if you notice, there's a little bit of a difference between the center of this bolt and the center of this bolt, so it is going to be shorter. So when I measured it, it was right around 13 and 3/4 in my case. But you know, again, for your application, it might be slight differences there, but you know, this is the way you got to work with, guys. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna put the arm on. I'm gonna show you how that works. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lock this nut in place. This is the one that goes, this is the larger end that goes on the subframe side. Just gonna lock this bolt in place. The car will have to get the alignment. So if you guys are doing this, just know that you're gonna have to go get an alignment afterwards. So I'm just locking this in place. I'm sure they'll do adjustments once they have it under the rack, but we guys still gotta drive it there. So the kit comes with these 2 spacers. You're gonna slip them into the larger section like that. And now we're gonna head over to the subframe. So this is gonna go to the subframe, and this is gonna go right on this side right here. So let's get that on. All right, OEM bolt, as I mentioned, we're reusing that. So you're gonna just slip this side up, get it in place. And again, this should just thread in by hand. You shouldn't have to force it. All right, so just get the thread started. Once you feel comfortable, then you can actually put your wrench on it and just boogie. And you know, as with anything you're doing on your car, nothing should grind or bind, so it should just go on very nice. So we'll run this up, and then this side you take your longer bolt. Now the washer actually goes on the inside, so you're gonna put your your bolt through. And again, this is directly from the Wilhelm directions. The washer goes on the inside here. And then we're going to slip this on the outer section. Slip this through, washer goes in. And as you can see, there's a little bit of, see the difference? I got to move the spindle in. So what I did here was I tried to get everything as close as I could to the you know, factory spec. So when it goes to alignment, hopefully it's not too far off. All right, then the other washer goes on the back end and the nut goes on, and now we're going to torque everything to spec. This one is 40 foot-pounds, this one is 80 foot-pounds, and this one is 76 foot-pounds. So let's get a torque wrench out and torque everything up. All right guys, let's come up front. We finished the back, now we're gonna finish up the front. This one, I think it's gonna be a lot easier simply because you don't have to push out that bearing. So we're gonna start off with the RCAs. So that's these blocks here. Now the larger one goes on the front. Got the 2 bolts here, so let's start pulling out these 2 ball joint bolts and slip this in. All right, so we're gonna pull the 2 bolts just like the rear. We got one in the front, one in the back. All right, so you get the RCAs in, and then you just put your 2 longer bolts in. And we're gonna torque these up. This is torqued to 59 foot-pounds. So fairly easy to get these in. Exercise. You don't really have to go to the gym if you work on your car. You get used to it after a while, but it is certainly an exercise going up and down, especially when you're working under the car. All right, so that's done. So now we're gonna take out the tie rod. So we're gonna pull the cotter pin that's in the top of the castle nut here. We're gonna slip this thing out. You gotta pull this lock nut right here. So before you actually get this, just pull this lock nut. I kind of pulled it already, so it's free. And then when you pull it, just don't leave it all the way back, just leave it snug. So you wanna measure the distance of your arm. So when you replace it, you're gonna get it back closer to the factory spec. So at least when you're driving it to the alignment shop, it's not too crazy. At least that's my hope. So I'm gonna try it. I'll let you guys know how that goes. And of course, you gotta get this thing aligned. So let's pull this tie rod, bolt nut off the top here. All right, so this gives you a better angle, and it's kind of hard to see when you're filming from underneath. So you're gonna pull this cotter pin right here. We're gonna slip this out, and then we're gonna pull this nut. Then we're gonna have to use a tool to get this out, because you can hammer it out, but hey, if you got the right tool, why hammer it? Most of the time, take a heavy hammer, blow it right here, this thing will come loose. But that's too much work, and I don't feel like hammering, especially at night. All right, just cotter pin is out. Now we're gonna get our 17. All right, so we're gonna leave the nut back on because sometimes these things are pretty violent when they pop. Oh, this is pretty loose. So now I'm gonna get my tool on. This is my joint puller. So we're gonna put this in here. This goes on top, and then we're just gonna tighten this thing down. And that will just get this joint popped out. You could use an impact, but I like to do it by hand. Yep, and normally those things make that popping noise. That's why you leave that nut on. Because think about it, if it pops and you didn't have the nut, yeah, it just scares the crap out of you. So don't scare yourself. All right. So now we're gonna tighten it back in. We're done with this tool. Alright, and now take our nut off. And there you go. So now we're going to spin this thing off. We're going to put on a new joint and it's almost done. Alright guys, so this is the pieces that we have left to install. This is kind of on here tight, so I'm going to loosen it up because we're going to have to adjust the arm a little bit to get back to the factory specs. So here it goes. You can never tell what direction these things are. Actually, you know what? We're going to pull this piece out. There you go. So we loosen it, and then gotta pull this guy out here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off the old tie rod, I'm gonna measure the same distance, and we're gonna put it back on. So that way, you know, whatever the spec, I mean within spec, right? Whatever it was before, we're putting it back the same way. And again, it has to get aligned, but I'm hoping the factory alignment is the same as whatever we're going to put in here, and it will work, and then we just enhance it a little bit when we do the alignment. I really don't know, but this is what I'm doing. Okay. All right, so this nut, we had pulled it, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to jam it right back up on where the factory tie rod is, so that way when I screw this out and I put the other one back in, I get it back at the same position. All right. Now a lot of people count the amount of turns. I'm not even counting the turns because we're not putting on back the same exact tie rod. It's a different tie rod. So, you know, I don't see the need to count it. Could be wrong, but what's the point of counting it if we're putting on a different style, right? I think it's more important that we measure the distance. So this is what I was talking about. We're gonna put this over here and we're gonna measure. And you see it's off by, I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but here, if I put my screwdriver like this, see it hits it. We want to see where it comes, it goes flush right across, so it's the same distance away. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna turn this out. All right, and now, if I go with my screwdriver, they're all even. So I'm hoping this is what's gonna get it as close to a fairly decent driving car to get to the alignment shop. So that is my way of doing it. All right, so we got our new tie rod set up, adjusted it according to the factory OEM, and now we're gonna screw this thing back on. So I'm gonna run this, I'm gonna run it right up on to my lock nut, and then we're gonna go finish the rest over here. All right, so here's our adapter to connect the spindle to the tie rod. So you're gonna take this smaller nut with the washer, you're gonna put it up in here, throw your washer on, then you're gonna put this nut down, and you're gonna torque this to 30 foot-pounds. So we're gonna tighten this up. Now it's not recommended to use, the directions say don't use an impact, so we're gonna do this by hand, and then we're gonna use a torque wrench to get this thing torqued to 30 foot-pounds. And it's really not a difficult kit in the front for sure. The back, you need special tools, so it's a little bit more involved, but in the front, you know, it's fairly, it's doable. 30 foot-pounds on the top. All right, so that's locked in. And now we have a few pieces that we got to put on. So let's get this large nut on the bottom off. And then what we're going to do is, comes with this spacer. So it has like a beveled edge, as you can see. I'm going to put a flat edge up on top of the spacer here. All right, so then these two smaller spacers, there's two small spacers, and then there's a larger spacer that comes in the kit. So you're gonna put both, the two on the top, two comes next, I should say. Now there is some conversation about whether you need a high alignment kit, you'll use only one. As far as I know, this car should align okay, so I'm using two that comes with the kit. You can probably do some more research on that, or talk to Alex Wilhelm about, you know, your setup, because it may differ. Then we're gonna get the tie rod on. Now this, you may need to align this a little bit. See right here, you just gotta play with it. So you use a little screwdriver, just kind of turn this part here just to get it to align. So it's a little bit tricky, but it's not that difficult. So I'm just gonna get a screwdriver, toggle this, so when I put this thing in here, it just kind of slides up in place and I don't have to fight it. All right, so you just use a little screwdriver just to kind of get the inner ball bearing, whatever ball joint lined up with the bolt, and then you just kind of tap it up like that. Then comes the larger spacer on the bottom, and finally your nut. And we're going to torque this as well to 30 foot-pounds, and pretty much that's done. The only thing I didn't finish here is tighten this little jam nut, which we can do while you guys are here. You just tighten this up, and of course your alignment guys are probably going to pull it again to adjust this thing, but you guys get the basic idea here. So now let's run this up, torque it to 30 foot-pounds, and we are done with we did the rear, we did the front. I have to go to the other side, but for you guys, you're seeing the finished product. So I hope this video helps. I'm going to tighten this up. I'm going to put the wheels on. I'll try to get some footage of the alignment shop. See if those guys can talk tech specs. I don't know if they will, but if I can, I will certainly film that. And, you know, let's see. This might be the end, or you might see a little bit more video. And I'll also let you know if I feel any difference. Now, I don't race the car, so I don't know if you can tell the difference on the street, but if you can, I certainly will let you guys know. All right, so here I am driving. Look at the steering wheel. So definitely you need an alignment. Whatever I did to try to get it in factory spec or something decent does not work. So odds are, well, not odds are, you definitely have to get this car aligned. So steering is all over the place, it's walking everywhere. So we're heading to the alignment shop. We're gonna get this thing dialed in hopefully, and it'll be good. So here it is, check this out. Look at this wheel. Look at this wheel. So clearly, I mean, I probably could have gotten it better just to drive it here, but I figured the alignment guys are gonna do what they're gonna do. So, you know, I'm not too far away from the shop, so that's it. But definitely, you know, you gotta get an alignment, guys. That's the message. I know I keep saying it over and over, but yeah. There she is on the alignment rack. We're gonna figure this out now, see how well we can get this thing running. Alright guys, it was hard to film in the shop. The owner wasn't there. Obviously the guys who worked there didn't want to film, but there it is, tracking straight. Hands off, and it goes pretty good. Guys, so we are in the red MR2, and guess what? As you know, it's all about MR2s. So here is the next MR2 that's going to be on the channel. So stay tuned. I'm not leaving you guys without good content. So we're going to refresh this one. This is a non-runner. Show you quickly what we got working with. We got to figure out how to get this thing to run. So just a little preview of what's coming up. Not bad chassis. Obviously has a body kit. You guys know how I feel about body kits. But yeah, we're going to bring this guy back to life. Stay tuned.